Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from chapter 18, verse 17, where Krishna says, Yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibajate yasya nahan karo dahan krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate. So that's lipyate. Hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibijate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibijate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibijate. Repeat. Yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan hanti na nibajate lipyate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibajate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan nibajate. Yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibajate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibajate yasya nahan krito bhavo buddhi yasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imal lokan na hanti na nibajate. Yasya, one whose, na, never, ahankrita, of false ego, bhavaha, nature, buddhi, intelligence, yasya, one whose, na, never, lipyate, is attached, hatva, killing. It's better light this way. Api, even. Sa, he. Mam, this. Lokan, world. Na, never. Hanti, kills. Na, never. Nibajate, becomes entangled. Translation. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. We'll read that again repeatedly because we want to remember this. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that the desire not to fight arises from false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. If one does not know that a super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the supreme sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is never in illusion. Personal activity and responsibility arise from, remember these, false ego, godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. So, when do we become personally responsible? When our actions are motivated by false ego, godlessness, and the lack of Krishna consciousness. So we have to drill this into people so that they know, that they see how these things are acting in their life. We'll come back to that. Anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Supersoul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing, does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reactions of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a supreme officer, he is not subject to be judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by a court of law. So, he's saying in this case, the desire to fight is born from false ego, right? Prabhupada is explaining that in the purport and in the verse. One who is motivated, one who is not motivated by false ego, he's talking about. So in this case, Prabhupada's saying that he's motivated not to fight out of false ego. Does this mean we always should fight? Does Krishna start out to fight? Isn't that the way? Isn't this the way many wars happen, like Vietnam? Can we not have a second class outside? Come in if you want, but yes. Yeah, awesome. So we were at the fighting. They started the Vietnam War this way, right? They thought that there was radar blips, and so they started a whole war. They attacked Iraq from America, even though there was no provocation, and Iraq had not attacked any trade center. It had nothing to do with them. And then when they start a war when there's no reason, then people are not very happy with it. So was Krishna for peace? Was he? Yes. Yes, how he started out with this. This shows how the action goes. It isn't this that Krishna said, like some of the leaders, let's just go to war. Right? Let's go to war. Which is what some of them do, right? Let's go to war. First, and the other thing is, you see in the beginning of this, Dhritarashtra is all upset, and he's wondering, well, what are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing, and how big is their army, and what are they doing, desirous to fight, and tell me who's on the other side, he's asking Sanjaya. Well, he should have analyzed this beforehand, shouldn't he? Obviously, it's supposed to happen this way, but just looking at it, he should have analyzed it before. So, when we think of actions, like war or something else, first you have to do some strategic planning on it. You gather the information first about what's going on. Then you take that information and you see what to do with it. And then you try to work a solution. Now, when did Krishna first try to do some information gathering about the Kurus? Who knows? We'll give this with hints. Who has an idea when it was? Was it 1950? No. Was it one day before the battlefield? No. Was it right after he killed Kamsa? Who did he ask to go to Hastinapur? Akrura. Right afterwards, right? He didn't wait till the last minute, right? Like you inspect a building for fire hazards, you don't say, well, once it catches fire, we'll know about it, right? So he sent Akrura long ahead, and Akrura went and talked to Kunti, and who else did he talk to? And Dhritarashtra, yeah. He talked to Dhritarashtra and to Kunti, and to, I think, Pandavas also. And he tried to gather the information of what was going on. So did he try to object to Dhritarashtra in that?
Dhritarashtra was not behaving with the sons of Pandava nicely.
But what did Akrura do?
Akrura?
He just gathered the information, because this was something that we see that this applies in spiritual things, and applies in business and all kinds of things. A very important point that Krishna goes over some of these is Krishna asks, what is the field of activities? No, I'm sorry, Arjuna asks, what is the field of activities and who is the knower? And Krishna says, your mind and body are your field of activities, and you are the knower, and only I am the knower of the other. And he says, better to do your own duty, even if imperfectly performed. So Akrura wasn't sent there to fight the battle, right? He was sent there to gather information. So what did he do? You gather information. Because if he says too much and starts saying that Krishna's going to get you, you know, he's God, and doing that, it might interfere with what's later. So we have to see that first he was sent there to gather information. That's the job he did. We do our job that we're supposed to do. So Krishna was analyzing this way ahead. First you get the information, you bring it back, you analyze it, and then Krishna went with them to negotiate. And the one time Duryodhana was going to try to capture Krishna. So then Krishna showed him part of his universal form. And he says, I don't care, I still want to fight the fight. You know, that's the demonic idea. I want what I want, when I want it, even if it's not really capable of getting it. You know, I don't care if you're a god, I'm going to fight you anyway. Does that sound like he analyzed the situation carefully? Or his own position? Someone shows that they're God, are you going to keep fighting them? Right? Is it? No. You see, like Kamsa. You know, Kamsa had sent, we'll tell the story about how the government was changing Mathura with this, okay? That they were sending people from Mathura to Vrindavan, and they were causing big trouble here, right? You know some of these people's names? Putana, yes? Yes? And which one of these ones succeeded at killing Krishna? None. So this should give you an idea. Maybe you better, they say if you can't beat them, join them. You heard this? That works with Krishna, right? If you sent all these, so then the wrestlers were going to kill Krishna. How did that work out? How about the elephant, Kulvayapita? So then Kamsa thinks, well, you know what? I'm going to kill Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj and others. So how did that work out? You'd think if you'd already failed so many times, better to just surrender then. If he surrendered, he would have won, right? Because then Krishna jumped up, grabbed him and threw him on the dais, and that's how the government would change in Mathura. But he spent plenty of time waiting for that. This is some of our politics. We need to see how Krishna does this. Carefully analyzes the situation, tries to be fair, give the right point. The Pandavas said, well, why don't you give us 5 villages? And Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana said, no, now shouldn't they have figured, well, you know what, if I give them 5 villages, it's probably less than 5%, maybe 1%. Isn't it better just to get off with that? If a man comes out and puts a gun at your head and says, okay, I want 5 rupees, what do? Do you argue with him or just, you give him, you give him 15 and be glad that you got off easy, right? You don't argue with I don't owe you 5 rupees, why do I need that? So the whole point is that Krishna was for peace. This is one of the things where we do it. We know the story of when it's amazing, they're bringing some of this stuff on the History Channel in America. And we know the story of when the demigods and the demons fought. Glad you could join us. We were all there at the movie about Prabhupada yesterday. So we're talking about political analyzation and peacemaking and how to do it properly before fighting a war. So, we were there here's what happened, and this was on the History Channel. Druta Karma had part to do with this, and they said that they probably have so much trouble in the places like Israel because the Christian scriptures say, kill all the other people, and the Muslim scriptures told them, well, you get rid of the other people. They said in converse, in the Vedic thinking, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when if you have to hear about something from TV, it might as well be this, right? It's great that it's being seen. I had to see this one. So they said that when the demigods asked God, Vishnu, what do we do about the demons? He said, why don't you try getting along with them first? Because even for your own self-interest, it's better to try to get along first. It reminds me of near the temple, the two roommates have a house. We'll just call them roommate 1 and 2. It would make it easy. Now, roommate 1 had a girl who was a friend, and he let her stay on the couch. And then in the morning, he left, and the girl left also. Someone knocked on the door to roommate 2 and said, where's that girl? She stole my truck. I'm going to beat you. And he said, well, it's not my friend, and I don't know where she is. The guy says, I'll beat you. Then he goes away, comes back 15 minutes later, and says, hey, could you be a friend if she comes by and call me and tell me that she's here? And roommate 2 says, you should have asked me a favor first. You can always threaten me later, but once you've threatened me, you can't ask a favor. Isn't it? So, Krishna didn't go off, as they say, half-cocked. Krishna had it all planned out well. Even though he's God, he showed us by the example that a Akrura went right as soon as Kamsa was taken care of, is on to the next issue. They went to gather the information. You don't just react. Gather the information first, analyze the information, try all the other things. And then when that didn't work, then we do this. So this should have been obvious that we know, that we trust that Krishna does these things. Krishna shows that we try to get along first. And Krishna had tried to negotiate. We should know that when Krishna is ready to fight, it's because he has taken all the other precautions. We know this because we trust him, because he's God, and because it's shown to us by the example of what goes on here. So to just fight a war on your own is, of course, when is one time, does that mean not fighting is always acting out of false ego? No. The idea is that when Krishna wants you to make peace, the Pandavas wanted to fight with Sisupala. He kept making insults. And he thought, boy, I'm getting away with this. I've made 99 insults, and so far nothing's happened. I must be okay, right? But Krishna told the Pandavas, just wait, just calm down, don't fight. So does that mean that it would be false ego to fight, or false ego not to fight? Which is it?
False ego to fight.
In that case. But in this case? Not. So what's it based? It's not based on the fighting then, is it?
It's high instruction.
It's based on Krishna's instruction. Like the police officer. If someone's committing a crime, he may beat them with a stick, handcuff them, take them away. And if not, then you shouldn't just beat a random person, right? So it's not based on whether it's fighting or not fighting, but whether it is the action of Krishna, who has carefully considered all of these things. That's what it's based on. That's the difference. It's not that Krishna is a warmonger. Krishna has exhausted the other possibilities here. So this is what is going on in this verse. Krishna shows us from the example of how to deal with these things, and he comes up with tricky ways to deal with them, right? We read so many stories of what he did with people to get them to usually solve the problem on their own, the problems that they made. Like Bali Maharaj, he just asked 3 steps from him. So we'll look at something more in here. He thought he was the doer. This is there in history. Some people thought, like, we take the World War II. Someone was asking me about it today. Hitler's advisors told him, wait till 1945 to attack the other countries, because by then he would have had all the advanced weapons. So he was attacking Moscow. And he had a gun that would shoot a 14,000-pound shell, like 7 tons, right? Destroy a whole block. And it would go 50 kilometers, but he was 60 kilometers from the center of Moscow. But he had all the factors of action. He had all the 4 factors of action in order. The place was in order because he was close to Moscow. The endeavor was right because he had the right plan to attack Moscow. The census and their equipment were in order. He was the doer, the best soldier. He had the best soldiers. It was November 7th. The winter wasn't going to come for the next month and a half. So he had all of the 4 factors in order. Now what's the problem? There's 5 factors. That's the right, right? If I say, okay, I got a gun on the 4 of you right now, but there's a 5th one behind me, right? It's the one you don't know about, the 5th factor. So, but of course the winter was a month and a half away, so the winter couldn't come early, could it? It did. When something happens, that's proof that it's possible, right? Is it? Like if it rained in October, you can't say, well, it can't rain, and no, if it did, that's proof that it's possible. So the winter came and all of their equipment bogged down and they weren't able to win that, to take over Russia. So we see that Krishna can intervene in these things, and he can intervene in our life also. So what we have to do is be open to him. It's just like sometimes I heard that somebody said that the super soul is only right 98% of the time because he doesn't get through. But that's like saying, my phone doesn't work. If you call my phone now and it doesn't get through, is that the fault of your phone? No, mine is turned off. But that's the fault of your phone, isn't it? No? But it's not getting through. But it's your fault because your phone didn't get through. So if ours is turned off, we can't blame it on Krishna. Our receptor's off, right? Isn't it? It's like if you're giving class and you close your ears, does that mean I'm not giving class anymore? No. So we have to keep open to this reception because Krishna deals with things differently. He sanctions, he lets things go on of their own accord. But if someone turns to him, then he guides them. And this is the thing to have. This is why we try to practice Krishna conscious purely, because if we practice thinking, I want to serve Krishna, and I want some special miracles to happen, and I want to be able to get spiritual growth and enlightenment and feel closer to Krishna. Now, of course, we can go out and do some wrong things and then chant, but if we're trying to make up for the things we did wrong, try that in any relationship, you know. Do something wrong and make up for it, or just try to love the person and see what the difference is. Now, of course, if we made mistakes in the past, that's one thing, but we have to do in our life the same way, this to analyze the thing first. I remember somebody said, oh, he was having an argument and he didn't know what to do, so he hit someone in the mouth and he got arrested and went to jail. Now, if you don't know what to do, what do? You don't do it. You don't do it. For what you do then, you go back to like the gurus. First you analyze, you take in the information. Okay, let's see what they're saying. Now let's analyze the information. Now maybe I need to read some scripture, talk to a God brother, talk to professionals, do whatever, and then take the action. We don't just take the action without having thought it out well. Because when we're doing things in devotional service, we want to make sure what we're doing, we don't just go, okay, I'm doing the glasses case puja, right? Is that it? No, because there we find, okay, what do we do for service? Well, we'll read this literature, we offer like this, we learn how to do it first. It's just like I could put on a uniform and get out with the cricket team and start playing cricket. But why wouldn't they appreciate this? Because I have no idea how to play it, I'm going to make the rest of the team bad. So if I'm going to play cricket, I need to learn how to play first, don't I? So we need to learn how to do it first, like it's here. And what we have to do is see that quite often it's the things standing in our way, right? Like there's a room in there, but there's a wall in my way. So I either need to break the wall down or go around those walls. And we need to help people to be able to see these things. What were the reasons here? One who knows the instruments of work. Such a person is never in illusion. The personal responsibility comes when you're either influenced by false ego, godlessness, or lack of Krishna consciousness. What is it? False ego, godlessness, and lack of Krishna consciousness, right? Do you remember those three? Yes? Okay, I want you to think about one of those. Godless, there's false ego. These are the impediments that stop us from seeing Krishna's plan. False ego, godlessness, and lack of Krishna consciousness. Now I want you to think about one of those three very carefully. False ego, godlessness, or lack of Krishna consciousness. Okay, now tell me which one. Lack of Krishna consciousness. Okay, look in the book here. Look in the first page of this book. Come see. What does it say? The very first page. There's a yellow paper. No, very, very beginning. What does it say? The yellow page. Lack of Krishna consciousness. So see, we have to be able to help people to come up with these ideas on their own. How they are missing these. So what is false ego? Yes?
False ego is, I am the doer.
Yes, thinking we're something different than what we are. Basically, it's a hamkara, I am this body. It's like I'm thinking, it said it's Gunarnava, so I must be Gunarnava. Or I'm Shuddhi and my class is on Wednesday, so it must be Wednesday, right? So these are false thinking. So to think that I'm this my name is Doti, see? And my name is also Kurta, because I'm Kurta, right? Am I? My name is Green Kurta, my name is Hara Kurta. So the false ego is to think that we're this body. And we see that when people think, like if I think I'm this Kurta and you grab, I go, my God, you ripped me, right? And people have a brand new car and someone says, you put a scratch on that, right? You look what you did to me, right? So when we know we're not the body, then we don't suffer as much along with the body. So, these are the things we have to look out for. Godlessness. If we don't experience God, does that mean He doesn't exist? It's like back to the phone. If this phone is not on, that means that cell phone use is not possible? It's not possible, is it? Never. Well, because here's the thing. If I can't see it, it doesn't exist, correct? Okay, so you can't see the waves that are coming into a cell phone. Therefore, because I can't see it and it doesn't exist, it's not actually possible for a cell phone to work. If that original premise is true, that if I can't see it, it doesn't exist, then that means the cell phone can't work, because the wave that comes in, you can't see it. So if it was dependent on you seeing it to actually exist, then it can't exist. Right? The things that we have, people don't believe in. Things outside their experience, they don't believe. Does that mean it's not true? Does it? It doesn't. I remember I first came to Vrindavan, and I told the kids that in America we have a road called a freeway, that we drive 100 kilometers an hour. No animals are allowed. No bicycles, no cross traffic. And he yelled for his friends. He says, hey, come listen to the story this American made up about a road with no animals and no cross traffic. I said, it's real. They said, come on, just admit it. Of course, now they have TV and they see movies of American freeways, and we have the Jamuna Expressway now. Now we just have to teach people how to drive correctly in India. It's true, isn't it? They worry about terrorism and other stuff, and cars kill 150 people a day in India. Think about how many that is. 150 a day, right? That's a lot, isn't it? 150 a day. No, I'm sorry, 450 a day. 450 a day. Think about that. That's how many every hour? Say it's almost 480, that's like 20 per hour. Every 3 minutes. Every 3 minutes someone's killed by a car here in India. And yet people just don't even think about it. So we need to do like Krishna is doing here. You know, one person gets hit, no one does something. But Krishna wants the people protected somewhere. I mean, I know the Kshatris in India went to Northern Europe, as it says, you know, but someone needs to stand up and say, hey, stop throwing those plastic bags in the street. We had to have girls come from Delhi and line up and say, no plastic, right? And I tell people, I say, you pick that up. They look at me and says, no, that's a Dhamma aparad. You don't just throw it. There's a trash can right there, and they just drop it, right? Where did they learn this? Huh? So some way we need to say, hey, you need to train some more police to go out and write some tickets. People get tickets for dropping litter or honking when they're not supposed to. They'll think about it. But it may not be our job, but at least we can keep it in mind that somehow to honor the people who've been hurt and killed, that something needs to change. But where the first change comes with is with ourself. Just like for Arjuna to fight the battle. You know, first he had to change himself and get himself in the right mood. They say in sales that 90% of it is working on yourself. Vaisheshika was selling her books to people. I said, boy, they all love you. He says, well, I love them. If you become purified, loving, and fixed in purpose, then it's going to be easy for you to sell the book. If your mind, if the intelligence is many-branched and you're not sure what you want, it's going to be very hard to get it, right? If you don't know what you want, it's going to be hard to get it. So when you work on yourself, then a lot of these things come around because people want to know what you're doing. So that was the whole point here, is to work on the self. Is that we try to make the peace, but when it's time to go to war, and that's what Krishna says, then we do it, but not half-heartedly. My mother was Prabhupada's attorney. She got to write the book Trust for Prabhupada, and she said the same thing like with legal cases. First you have to make, if you're going to sue, first you have to know that you're correct. Number two, it has to be worth it. You can't sue someone for 100 rupees, right? Number three, you have to be right. You have to be able to prove it. It has to be worth it. And you have to be willing go the distance on it, right? Like Krishna did this with the Battle of Kurukshetra. First, he analyzed the situation, and then they tried to make peace, and they tried to make all concessions. But then when it's time to fight, you go for it. You don't do like I see some people here go, oh, I should slap you. No, you just wait. You really got to do it. You hit someone, knock them out, right? Right? If you really have to. You don't fight like that. If you're going to fight, you have to make sure it's done correctly. And actually, as far as wars, I think one of the smartest wars I saw was the India-Pakistan war, because in that war, first, I was living in Mumbai, and we would read every couple days, Pakistan would shell with artillery and kill like 5-6 people. It's bad, but it's not enough to start a whole war over. So that was bad. And before that, 10 million extra refugees came to India. And the last thing India needed was 10 million extra people to feed, wasn't it? So Pakistan was mad at that. They wanted to kill the people. They didn't want India to take them. So then they were shelling India, and India still did nothing. But then when they bombed the main cities, then India retaliated and freed Bangladesh. So we have to do like Krishna did here and to realize that the main idea is to be trying to act out of service. That the service may be talking nicely to people. It may be somebody's harming a child, or like Maharaj Parikshit when they were harming the cow, then you might have to retaliate against them. But it's all done as the matter of service. It isn't that we should try to be peaceful no matter what or fight no matter what. That we should be thinking, how can I be of maximum service at any point? And at one point the maximum service is to talk to someone nicely. And at another point, you may have to, if someone has a gun and you have a big stick, you hit him in the head or you do something else, if that's what you have to do. So the idea is that we have to line our consciousness with trying to serve Krishna. And it isn't something that suddenly, it's like some religions, they say, well, just surrender to Christ or just do this, and that sounds good, but there has to be some process. Just like, well, just love the child. Well, what does that mean? Well, make sure that they're bathed in the morning and have clothing and feed them and do the things. They say, well, worshiping a deity is kind of like taking care of a child. You wake them up in the morning, you offer them some food, put them to bed, you do things. You figure out some way to serve and to have a relationship. And that's what the point is. The point is not to fight or not to fight. Pandavas held on to those weapons. Sisupala thought he was home free. He made insults 99 times and nobody did anything, so he had to be safe, right? He was safe all up until the point that he wasn't safe anymore. So this is counted of 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, chakra, right? It's like Panjaka did that. He says, I'm real Vishnu. I want you to surrender your symbols. Krishna says, all right, let's start with the chakra. So, just because you're getting away with it for a while doesn't mean it's not catching up, right? So Sisupala got away with it until he didn't anymore. But when we're dealing with Krishna, we always come out to an advantage. Anything that happens helps us. But this is showing how we act in the service of Krishna. The main thing is we have to be really sure what we're doing. Just like the book distributor. Do they go out and argue with people? No, because they're sure. The point is, like Vaisheshika gives them some ideas. Leave a good impression. Try to get them interested. See if you can get them a book. This is the point. If the point is to argue, then you say, hey, you look stupid today. Oh, I'm as stupid as you are, right? But is that the point? Right? If that's the point, then you think, what is the point? What is the purpose that I'm trying to fulfill? So the purpose is trying to serve Krishna. So that even though in the instance it's trying to get along, even if they're demons, if the time comes right, we have to switch gears. Just like when they're doing books. The people that do successful, like I told the one person in Laguna, he kept saying, well, Vaisheshika trains us first to get their attention and then get them into the book. He says, but so many times they're not interested. So I just ask them, here, take the book and give me some change, but it doesn't work. Because if you can't get past the initial part, that's like going to the war without figuring out what's going on the other side and what's happening. You don't start analyzing like Dhritarashtra did once the armies are on the battlefield ready to fight. You analyze it 100 years before when Krishna sent a courier there to see what was going on. You analyze it properly. So that same way with dealing with people, you see you can get their attention first before you even try to do anything else. And then you create an interest. First you test to see where they're at and then create an interest. Because the idea is whatever we're doing is, the point is, how can I be of the best service to Krishna and to other living entities at any given moment? At one time it's talking nicely. At another time you may have to throw someone on the ground. But you don't do that unless it's in the service of Krishna. So the idea is that we're thinking, just like at the 1 minute, you're just letting people go. They're not interested. He just says next, next, next. But then when he gets someone interested, he changes his gear. So is the gear to just try to get rid of people, or is he supposed to try to talk to someone and get them to buy a book? It depends on the person, right? He has to know if this person isn't interested or argumentative, then you let them go. But if the person is, then you open up to them. So the point is not to have a particular course of action, whether it's to let the people go or sell, to fight or not to fight. The point is, how can I have the best use of my time to serve Krishna correctly? That's the point. How can I serve Krishna in this incident? Right? How does this match up with serving Krishna? It's like we have to think of some of the bhakti. St. Francis of Assisi, a Christian he would say many things like, thy will be done, not my will. Things like this. I think, okay, what is Krishna's will for me at this time? Not like, well, what do I want to do? Right? What does Krishna want for me? What does he want? So that's the whole point of it. What does Krishna want from me to do? And if you're a Kura, don't fight the battle. You go to analyze, right? And if you're Arjuna, the analyzation has already been done. You start throwing some arrows out there. So that's the main point, is to understand what our duty is. Better to do your own duty. And that's why in other things too, you find your own spiritual master, your own doctor, your own person that advises you financially. You find a person first. You do all that first. You don't sit there guessing and just believing everybody. Well, people told me this would be a good action to do, and this would be good to do, and this would be... You'll find someone who can guide you first in any of those fields, particularly the spiritual master. And you follow yours. You can't be following all kinds of different things and wonder why you're getting lost, right? Like there may be several ways to get to Delhi from here, right? But you may show me how to go on the road to Faridabad, and you may give me directions through the Jamuna Expressway. And if I follow either one of those, I get there. But if I take a little bit from one and a little bit from the other, I might get confused, right? So this is the whole point here, is to analyze how I can be of service to Krishna and what is my function. What is the service that I do? Not to try to take someone else's service away from them. If a Kura tried to take Arjuna's service away and Arjuna tries to do the analyzation, then it doesn't work. We have to be happy with what Krishna gives us. And that's the point of it. How to be of maximum service to Krishna, and how we should be looking for how we can do that. We ask Krishna, please guide me how I can be of service to you. When we're chanting, that's what we're asking for. Not for so many other things, right? Okay, any questions or comments? Yes? Is there a microphone somewhere? By the way, tomorrow's Ekadasi. It's a great day to make spiritual advancement. It's not a good day in starting new business adventures, but it's a good day for chanting extra rounds and reading and surrendering and getting rid of a few anarthas, unwanted things that aren't worth anything, but cost a whole lot. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I would like to know that you are saying around 450 people are dying in accidents.
Yes.
So how does it help us in Krishna consciousness? Thinking about somebody dying or somebody destroying, how does it help in your Krishna consciousness? Thinking about it.
Because what we are supposed to do is we are trying to serve, like Arjuna is trying to protect the innocent people, is that we in our lives can try to act in a way that we don't try to create harm for others. Like if you're driving the car, don't pull out in traffic where you might hit someone. Think, how can I act in such a way that I will be of maximum service to Krishna? How can I help others, and how can I not cause harm to others? And if we can teach others to do this, then our life is a success. You may not change the whole nation in one day, right? We have plenty of books, we have plenty of things we do here. They have the Bhagavad-Gita Museum in Delhi that if you go through that and follow it, you'll know how to do all these things correctly. But at least we have to present them. We have to see that. The point is that if we are supposed to be acting out of service to Krishna, for someone to do things that are, like if you go off and get intoxicated, or if you drive in a way that's danger to other people, you're acting out of false ego. The point for us is to let people realize that when you're acting in a way that it's serving yourself and hurting others, this is false ego, and you're going to have to pay for this. We have to let people know that this is what happens when people act this way. If people act in a Krishna conscious way and thought, how can I not practice ahimsa, as Krishna mentions, and not cause harm to any other living entities, so much of this wouldn't go on. It's a byproduct of it. It's a part of Krishna consciousness. It's not that we drop Krishna consciousness and just say those, but we say that we should act in such a way that we don't cause harm to any living entity. So obviously when people are doing things like that, we can see that it hasn't gotten through to them, isn't it? If you're thinking, how can I be of service to Krishna, and how can I not cause harm to any person? Now, does it make sense? Yes? It's not just that, it's a whole way of thinking.
But Prabhu, sometimes people are keeping on finding the faults. They see, so in your moment this is going on, this is going on, that's going on. So many times people keep on complaining. So how they can come to Krishna consciousness without complaining?
We could start a Fault Finders Anonymous to send people to. Some people are always looking for the fault. It was funny, it's like Tukaram, Temple President, Laguna Beach. He was saying that, so many people are always trying to minimize the other's devotees' activities and find faults with what they do. And he says, the pujari didn't show up, so I had to do the artik. And Jody says, yeah, but I bet it was the short one, wasn't it? And he broke out laughing, right? Because that's the way we're thinking. You did the artik, yeah, but it was the short one, the dupe artik, right? It was just the short one, it wasn't the real one. So what we have to do is show ourselves that we should be trying to glorify others, not just pull them down. This is envy. This is why we're in the world. Try to find something good. And you can't change all the people, but you can get some of them to say, well, do you want to find faults, or do you want to find happiness? Which do you want? Because it doesn't make you real happy to start looking for all these little picky things, right? If you're going to find faults with things people are really doing in the world, or figure out how to do something better about it. But better to say, we're trying to work on becoming happy. And when you want to look for faults, it's better to look for your own faults, isn't it? Right? It's just like, and if people are guiding us, we listen. I remember I was out at Talavan, and the one young devotee said, get out of the street right now. And so I figured he must have a good reason. So the bull came around the corner, pulling this huge cart, covering the whole road. Now maybe that was the fault of the bull keeper, that he shouldn't have let the bull go somehow, right? But it was more important for me to think if I stood in the middle of the road, it would be my fault to get run over. So it's better that I look at my defects and the things I have to correct, before I worry about the others. Because at least if I got myself out of harm's way, then the other things might be okay. But if I just stood in the street saying, why are you criticizing me and telling me to get out of the road? And why did that guy let that, right? So we train people, we're better off to look for our own faults. As they say, you keep your own side of the street clean. If you're sweeping one side and I'm sweeping the other, you don't say, you left dust over there. You do your job and you do yours correctly. And you tell others that if we want happiness, we do better to look for our own faults and to let others be what they are, or let them know the result of it. Right? So I say, you want to slap me in the face? You can slap me, but it cost you 1 crore of rupees. You want to do it twice? No, right? Let them know there's a cost for these things. Because, Krishna allows you to do anything you want. You can do all the things you want for yourself, or you can act for Krishna. Krishna isn't going to stop you for acting for yourself, right? But when you act for Krishna, what's the difference? There's no bad result. And you can do anything you want for yourself, but what's the difference there? You have to pay for it, right? And you don't quite often know what the cost is, right? Say, here, take this home, I'll bill you later, okay? Take this home with you, I'll bill you later. Is that okay? What, no? No, I'm billing you later, though. What? Well, especially when you don't know what the bill is. That's why we read these, to find out what the bill is, right? At least we know what the result is. But people go and perform all these activities with the price and they don't know what the price is. You go buy a property in a car that way, you sign the car, don't worry, we'll bill you later. Isn't it? So, you know what the problem with Bhagavad-Gita is? The Bhagavad-Gita instructs us how to stay out of trouble in the material world. But the people who don't read Bhagavad-Gita don't find out what happens when you don't read Bhagavad-Gita. So the problem with it is not reading it. Because if we read it, we see the results of these things. And we realize that I worship Krishna, I become happy, joyous, free, eternal knowledge, bliss. I do this side, suffering. Maya promises you a ring, and you find out it's a suffering. Right? Doesn't it sound that way? But it looks so good. That's the thing, sometimes how it looks isn't necessarily as good as it really is. But we start telling ourselves how we think things might be. So we have to look for Krishna's direction. We have to turn the phone in our heart on so that we can hear Krishna's instruction. And we read it so we know what it is. Any other question or comment? Yes?
Yeah, just thank you, Marty. You have just told that you, before doing anything, analyze properly. So in the case of war, Arjun has analyzed the proper things properly because he was not so much powerful in front of Karna, and with the help of superpower of Lord Krishna,
Yes.
only he would be able to survive. So how far one can analyze the situation?
Well, you have to see what your job is. If it's your job to analyze it, then you do it. And once you find out one is, like let's say you're buying a piece of property and you analyze that this property is worth 8 crores and it's for sale for 3, then you quit analyzing and go buy it, right? The same way with this. Once all the information is there, what you should do, then you do it.
But we have the very limited senses. Arjun has also the limited senses.
Yes.
And only with the help of Lord Krishna, you would be able to.
That's why we try to find a spiritual master who is free from this, and we try to help him in his service to Krishna. Well, so I say, okay, I devised a new thing. It's the glasses case seva, right? What was the result of it? We don't know. Right? Probably nothing. So we don't manufacture things. We just try to serve the spiritual master and serve Krishna, and we consult scripture and we ask others, and the things can be made clear. We don't have to guess. There is information to help us.
So it is a balance between the analysis and the mercy of Guru or Lord. It's a balance.
Well,
we have to sort of the balance.
Quite often we rely on someone else's analysis, the Guru's analysis, Krishna's analysis, like a Kuru went to do the analysis. But the idea is that when these people have done the analysis, then we stop arguing about it. Like Krishna says, it's his opinion. How long does he have to take to form an opinion? He already knows. So when Krishna wants something to go on, he obviously has analyzed things correctly. We don't have to check with that. We don't have to check Krishna's figures, right? Like when Krishna manifests as the cows and the cowherd boys, or when Krishna took all the residents of Mathura and moved them to Dwarka, do you check the mathematics on that to make sure that he got it correct? No. Krishna did explain to someone how he did that. Who did he explain it to? Who? The cowherd boys? He explained how he changed into the... Who did he explain it to? To Balaram, because Balaram can understand that. None of us would understand that. So, it obviously, there's some kind of formula to that, but are you going to be able to check Krishna's figures on that? Can you? No idea. We know that Krishna does it correctly. If we can do it, we have more chance of it coming up wrong or getting confused. So we have to know that Krishna has the ability to analyze these things with just a fragment of his energy. That's not a big deal for him. He supports all these universes with a fragment of his energy. So we go by Krishna. They say, don't keep trying to reinvent the wheel. If Krishna has analyzed it for us and showed us in Bhagavad-Gita, here's the analysis. The report was made and it was put in this book. You read this and you understand what is ignorance, what is goodness, what is passion, what is devotion, and then you see what's clear, right? Then it's clear, right? So read the analysis, right? And act on it. It's already been done. You don't have to keep re-experimenting. Hare Krishna.
Could you elaborate a little bit more about
On what?
could you just elaborate more on lack of Krishna consciousness? What does it actually mean?
Well, you're not conscious of Krishna. It's the simple part there. When you have the Krishna consciousness, you're conscious that Krishna is there with you, and he's watching what you do, and how can I please him? But when you lack of Krishna consciousness, you think, wow, isn't that nice? Wow, look at that stuff over there, right? It's like if you put a big stack of gold here, and I go, isn't there a rupee over there somewhere? You're missing the big valuable thing here. You're not conscious of it. If there's a big stack of gold here, am I worried about a rupee or 100 rupees over there? No. So the fact that I'm worried about that means I'm not conscious of the value of this thing. Because if we're conscious of that, then we have all the value. We're not going to be frustrated or worried about the other things. So the fact that we're not conscious of it means that we're not satisfied and we don't know what to do. So we have to add more of it.
So it's like I'm not conscious on the value of this process like this?
Well, to be Krishna conscious, we have to be conscious of Krishna. That is why when we chant, we become conscious of what we're saying, not something else, right? You do the thing, you do the appropriate thing at the time, right? If you do the computer, you do it later. We're not trying to do the computer while you're driving the car and chanting rounds too, right? All of these things may need to be done, but you do the most important thing first, right? Isn't it? That way, if you got your rounds done, and you accomplished the business, and you did some studying, but the laundry had to wait for tomorrow, isn't that better than, well, I got the laundry washed, but I didn't chant and I didn't eat and the building burned down because I was doing the laundry, right? So we have to put Krishna first. Because, if we put Krishna last, then everything in our life becomes a mess. But if we put Krishna first, then everything else becomes first class. Like Prabhupada says, how do you have different circles in life without any of them intersecting? Concentric, they all have the same center. So Krishna is here, we have family, we have business, we have actions, we have friends, and Krishna is the center of all of it. When you have all these different centers, of course it's going to be. So you make Krishna the center of the activities. It's a process. And obviously if we don't do it, it's like only certain rounds are beneficial, right? The rounds you chant are good and the ones you don't. You can't say, well, gosh, I seem to be starving. Food must not be of value. Did you eat anything? No. Right? If you didn't take the medicine, you can't say that it didn't work. Can you? People say that, oh, that medicine doesn't work. Did you take it? No. Well, of course it didn't work. Isn't it true? If you didn't take it, it won't work. So we have to apply it. That's the whole idea. We have to try this in our life. We try the right thing, not the difficult. Not like with Vrikasura. Krishna says, I don't believe that Lord Shiva could give you a benediction that if you touch someone's head, it'll crack. Try it on your own head. So if you're going to experiment, don't experiment with, when we saw the movie, they had one of the sports figures was talking about, don't take tobacco in any form, live, don't, I forget what the things were with it, but and you have to see what the benefits and detriments are to these things, right? Isn't it? You have to understand, that's why we have to understand the illusion and Krishna at the same time. We have to understand that it's not that, it's bad to kill things, but it's not like, say Krishna doesn't want us to take intoxication and the spiritual master access. Is that because he wants to punish us and doesn't want us to have fun on the weekend? Is that it? Or is it because these things can have a big problem, right? Right? There are some people that went and took one drink of alcohol and from then on they were drunk the rest of their life. Isn't it true? Right? So that might be you, but if you don't try it, you won't. Or if they tried it and found it out, then you don't want to keep trying it, right? Isn't it? Well, you take the lighter and it burns your finger. You don't try it again, do you? No. But that's why it's better to watch other people go through things. If they suffer with things, maybe it's a bad idea. Watch what other people do first. If it seems to be working for them, that's good. If it isn't, then we don't do it. So the whole point, we're trying to please Krishna and being conscious of Krishna. When we chant, we think of his name. We spend time reading, not just one page. I do that. I try to set a big amount for me to read. And then I read about Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's philosophy and try to understand what Krishna wants and then chant the rounds very intently. Kind of neat. My grandmother used to say, if it's worth doing at all, it's worth doing well. Right? If you're going to chant, you might as well listen to the names then. Of course, if you chant, it's kind of like you're watering a plant. And if you're doing it unattentively, it's like you throw some water all the way across the room, and some might get there, but you're better to go right up close and put all of it right on the root. You might get some of it that way, but it's better to get right up close and pour it into there. So we become conscious of Krishna by putting Krishna in our consciousness. Isn't it? We have pictures of Krishna, not the different movie stars of India or America or wherever else. Is that?
And this godlessness means atheist. What means godlessness?
Well, you can believe in God and just not have God in your life. As I say, I believe in cleanliness, I just don't take a bath. So I still have lack of cleanliness. You're not acting in a godly way. It's like you can say, no, I'm spiritual, I believe in spirit, but you're not acting in a spiritual way, right? You have to put God in your life. You have to act in a way that would please God. And that's how it comes to dealing with others. We deal in a way that we're not going to cause harm to any other living entity. And when we're not, that means we're not being conscious of Krishna. We're acting out of false ego. Because I need to get somewhere, I don't care who I run off the road. That obviously fits into false ego, doesn't it? Isn't it simple there? When I'm thinking about God and others, I'm acting on real ego. When I'm willing to sacrifice God and others for myself, I'm thinking on false ego. Doesn't that make it fairly clear? I'm either acting for God or just for myself. Now we go along with it. We get to hear nice sound vibration. We get to meet nice people. We read nice books and eat nice food that's offered to Krishna. But what are we thinking about first? Ourselves or others? We're thinking, I don't, care what happens to others. I just want what I want. We have to think in that way. That's why we try not to offend others, isn't it? Get out of my way. We may still offend others, even when we try not to. But if we don't care, right? If we don't care at all. So to not be godless, we have to add God. And we have to think, what is it to be godlike? And when we're more godlike, then the godlessness goes away. It's like light and dark. When the light's there, the darkness is gone. When the light's gone, it's dark. So it's because we don't have God in our life. We're thinking we need to fight because we need to take that country over, or we don't want to fight because we have some ideal. We're not thinking, what does God want? How can I serve God, and how can I be helpful to others? That should be what we're thinking before we take some action. And the action may be different at different times. One time you might have to be very nice, another time they might have to fight a war. But the original premise is, what does God want me to do to serve Him, and how can I be helpful to others? That's how we're thinking in that way. And that's why that applies to other things too, with whether it's driving cars or doing things. You don't think that I'm a great devotee and yet I endanger people in the world. It doesn't make sense, does it? Right? Does that make sense now? Are you thinking, how can I be kind to others? And the top kindness is to give them Krishna consciousness. But we can't think, let me give Krishna consciousness and it doesn't matter. You go down the street, you start pushing people out of the way. I'm going to the store, get out of my way, right? We don't think that way. We try to have respect for others. That's part of our Krishna consciousness. You know, it's a kanishta when we think, well, I love God, but I don't care about the other people. Isn't it? Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.